Obviously, another week for us, game week. Glad to be able to get the win on Saturday, and got the guys together last night and had a little practice, and so day off for everybody except us and you guys, and then getting ready to play Tulsa, and just kind of stay the course. Game week for us.
Any change in timetable for Spencer's return?
Well, I would rather not talk about any injuries at this time. We're hoping that he'll be back. I think he'll be fine. But I really can't say, one, because, we never know how those things will turn out. So I just prefer to not guess one way or the other.
Did film review show you anything new about the offensive line?
We protected really well. Probably the best protection we've had in a long, long time. We didn't run block as well as I would have liked, and it was a typical one guy away. You hear that all the time. We were just one guy away from this. We were several times we were one block away from being a lot better in the running game. That's something we need to work on this week and get it cleaned up.
Mike, how much do you put on the backs on that too? Because sometimes, especially when you don't have a quarterback, the defense has to account for. Mm-hmm. That back's got to be expected to make a guy miss, and maybe too, if you looked at their vision, did guys not see some things?
Couple times, there were a couple times that there was more yards available in our opinion, but for the most part, we had one guy that was lacking on several running plays that kept us from getting in the open field to where they would give them a chance to really make that one guy miss.
You had one guy up front, Mike, just to be clear, one guy up front that was lacking. You weren't being.
Yeah, I'm going to guess 5-6 times. One of the front five guys up front was not as good as what we wanted him to. It wasn't really mental mistakes. It was more just, they get to coach too. Their guys defeated the block, and our guys didn't finish the block. That's really what it came down to.
I had the same question as Scott, actually.
Okay, good.
When you say that, is it one guy in particular? Is there?
No, it was one guy. Could have been the tackle. One time could have been the Cowboy back. One time it could have been the guard. I mean, it's very common. It's nothing unusual. It happened at times, and then a little bit to what Robert said, that guy got him down instead of maybe running through it or making that guy miss, and then the combination of it made it not look very good.
How did your Cowboy backs play?
They played pretty good, to be honest with you. Guys that haven't played at all, I was pleased with where they played. Now, the competition is going to get better every week. The guys are going to get more physical, so the challenge will be greater for them. But for players that hadn't played much in a competitive situation, I thought they played pretty well.
Are you still a guy that sends cut-ups to the conference office on some questions, or do you?
No, I don't send anything in.
On the targeting call on Trey, and I talked to him about it afterwards. He thought he turned his head, and I know the conference can reverse that if they look at it this week, but what did you see on that targeting?
I thought that he led with a partial shoulder, partial head, which should not be an ejection, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. It wasn't a direct head-only contact. I saw several others that happened this week that were every bit or maybe more that they ruled the other way. So it's a matter of opinion, okay? And we talk with our guys about if you ever get above here, you're leaving it up to somebody else. You got to stay down here, okay? If you stay down here, we don't rely on somebody else to offer an opinion on whether it's targeting or not. My personal opinion, which I am excited that they have greatly minimized blows above the shoulder, but his, in my opinion, whether it was a penalty or not, I'm good with. But for an ejection, I didn't think it was that type of a hit, in my opinion.
And the tough thing, too, is Trey was at a point where you're going to hit whatever you can. He was trying to keep the guy out of the end zone. You're right there at the plane.
Again, the rule states so no matter what, you're supposed to protect the player. But that guy caught it and went down. to cross the goal line, and he went down, shoulder, head, and that's where you get the collision. When two people are doing this, it's different when a guy's running like this and you directly hit a guy in the head, you should be ejected. That's just my opinion on targeting.
Jason Taylor came in place of Trey. I assume he'll be your starter then. What does he bring to the
Jason comes in certain packages for him. We have other guys that rotate in those positions, so there will be times that he could be in there. And he's an experienced guy that had to play for us at times. Last year, we had somebody else that got a targeting in a game, and he played. Can't remember who it was, but he played a pretty good number of plays. May have been the year before at the bowl. And so, I mean, he practices all the time. I'm good with him. We trust him. He plays hard. He competes. We're good with him.
Mike, one more thing from Saturday night that I had a chance to talk to Jim Knowles afterwards too. For you, even as a head coach, to know you can trust the back end of your defense to cover enough to do some of the blitzing that he was doing and being aggressive there at the end, how much of a luxury? Because that's not seen all that much anymore.
Yeah, most of our guys that are in the back end are mature and experienced, which should eliminate most of the issues you're referring to, missed assignments and such. Again, as we move forward, the competition is going to get better. You're going to be attacking guys they're going to be better protectors, and I thought they played really good, and I thought Coach Petrino's done a great job with them. And he's revamped his people. He's got some guys that transferred in there that they're a different team than they were in the spring. But the point being is each week for us it's going to get better and better. The guys to cover are going to get harder, and the pressure packages will be more difficult based on those guys. But we do have experience and maturity back in the back end of our defense, which allows for a little more flexibility.
Looking back on it too, it looked like Christian Holmes had a really good game.
He seemed to play well. His missed assignments were very low. I would like him to be more physical at times and be a little more aggressive in coverage. But overall, he played well.
Colin Oliver had the big plays at the end. With some injuries there at that position, do you expect him to see the field more than maybe you anticipated?
Yes, twofold. Both the things that you're saying are true. We were going to play him this year because we think he's good enough to play as a freshman. He's physically mature enough. He has a really, really strong lower body. And we think that if he pushes hard, continues to work, do all the things we talk about, he's going to be a really good player. And when we got some guys beat up a little bit, then he has to get more reps, and so that's why he played more than what we would originally have played him if we were healthy.
Did you like what you saw and the way he progressed getting that opportunity?
Mm-hmm. I like everything that he's doing. He's going to make mistakes, but he's going to do them fast. So far he's played physical. Again, it's going to get tougher for him as we move forward. But at this point, he plays fast, he plays physical, he likes to play football. So those are good things.
Mike, it ended up being a rather low-scoring game, 23-16. But Saturday across the nation, we saw a bunch of low scores. We saw some high scores, but a whole bunch of low scores too. Does that have any long-term meaning? Are defenses starting to catch up a little bit? Are we seeing the scoring come back to earth a little bit?
You know, I looked at scores yesterday. Very seldom do I scan scores across the country, but I did it yesterday just out of curiosity. And I saw the same thing you did. You saw some teams that are really talented that went ahead and scored their 40s and 50s and kind of took care of business, for lack of a better term. And then you saw more teams than on a traditional year like us that didn't take care of business, in people's opinions, okay? We can call it like it is. We had a chance. We had 2 deep throws. We had a chance to make the game a 30-point game at one point, which probably would have been completely different. We didn't get that done. So I started to think about, when I was looking at a lot of the scores across the country and seeing what's happened is, and there's a few things I think that's contributing to this. This is just me, my opinion, hypothetically. One, with all the transfers, coaches or teams can change their team in the off season more so than it's ever happened in college football, right? We watched a couple years ago down at SMU. They brought in 20 transfers, and I think they won like 8 or 9 games, or maybe more than that. I don't know. But they were a completely different team based on their transfers. Some of these teams that played better than what people would have thought versus who they were playing have a number of players that have changed and they've upgraded their talent level, and it happens really fast. But defenses are playing better now, considerably better now than they were even 3 years ago, in my opinion. They're it's turning again. It's coming full circle. They're not giving. We're not seeing as many big plays. Like when I got home last night, towards the latter part of the third quarter of the game that was on TV, we still saw a couple big plays. You're not seeing a lot of those anymore because the way defenses are playing, so your scoring's down. And if we would have hit our deep throws that we could have hit in this game, which were either an overthrow or guys didn't go up and get them, our numbers probably would have been pushed up. So for that reason, defenses are catching up, and the transfer portal is creating more parity across the country, and it's allowing teams to compete better, specifically defensively, in my opinion. That was what the 5 minutes that I put into it, what I came up with on the same topic that you were talking about.
Coach, do you think the super seniors and a lot of teams returning a lot of guys defensively plays any role?
Big time, sure. It's the same theory. It's just like a transfer. So you get a super senior that doesn't count on your 85, and that's another body that's got a lot of experience. And if you look at, I heard our guys in the office talking about it a month ago. The majority of the teams that are doing it are defensive guys returning. And so you have, like Malcolm Rodriguez had 15 tackles for us, had 9 solos. It's a pretty big deal. If he wasn't there, if he would have gone on. So just him being a super senior, Devin Harper played really, really good. Super senior. So if you have 3 or 4 super seniors who are essentially a freebie, they don't count on your numbers, and they're a defensive guy, defenses are going to play better.
Speaking of Devin Harper, what did he show you the other night, particularly in terms of being a playmaker at linebacker?
We knew he's fast, right? We've talked about that forever. That's been his strength. And he settled down, in my opinion. And he's not really a guy that's played more than about 20 plays a game because he's playing behind guys that are playing in the NFL, and it didn't happen. He played better once he got in the rhythm of the game, which sometimes we see. See, that's the difficult thing about some players. Some players get stuck behind somebody. That's why the transfer portal is such a cool thing for some kids. You get stuck behind somebody, you don't get in a game, you don't get experience, you don't get in a rhythm. We might not ever know how good you are. Now, he just played one game. But he runs to the ball, he plays aggressive, he likes football, and he played pretty good. So I'm excited about watching him.
You had Eamon and Malcolm for a few seasons there together as a reliable duo. How different is this tandem between Malcolm and you?
Oh, probably not much. I mean, I wouldn't say there's much different there other than Malcolm's good, Malcolm's Malcolm, and we didn't know anything about Devin except what we see at practice because he hadn't played a lot, as I just mentioned. And, you know, Eamon's playing for the Chargers. He made the pros. So we lost a pro player, and now we put Devin in behind him, and he played pretty good. But it's early, okay? We'll see where we're at October. 1st of October, we'll know a lot more about our football team. I'll know a lot more about Devin. I'll know a lot more about our Cowboy backs. Once we get each week, the talent level is going to continue to go up, and in most cases, right? You play teams, and as you get into conference play, the parity even gets greater based on the scholarship limitations and things all even out. So we'll know a lot more.
Mike, the tendency, I think, anymore is for the general public to overreact to anything that happens after one game, good and bad. How do coaches guard against that? I mean, do you have things running through your mind on the way home from the stadium Saturday night that you wake up the next day and you think, I'm just, that's not really how it is. That was just my knee jerk to something.
What you mean in my own brain?
Yeah.
Or what do you mean? Like,
is there a tendency for you to overreact to anything that you see after one game?
Oh, not me, because I know what's going on. Fans may overreact because they all have a perception, which we do in life. Like, I overreact on things that I don't know about. And I have a pretty good feel of where we're at as a team. I have a pretty good feel about how people will play. Like, I was surprised the Cowboy backs played as well as they did. I really wasn't surprised with Devin because he's been here for 19 years, and he's a fast guy, likes to play football. But the new guys that played Cowboy back haven't been here as long, so I don't know what I'm going to get on game day. So I usually have a good feel for all this. Now, when I drive home, my mind's in the same place. I know what our problems are. I know which ones we can fix, which ones we can't, which ones we need to put a Band-Aid on and try to do the best we can. If we have injuries at certain positions, in my opinion, I know where there's issues. Some of it can be cleaned up, some of it can't. So I don't overreact because I kind of know in most cases what it's going to be like. I don't really get surprised as much like I did with the Cowboy backs. Most of the time I have a pretty good feel for it.
Special teams, what were your thoughts there? It was kind of.
Well, we didn't kick good enough. We when we started the game, balls landed on the 7 and the 10, and we didn't kick good enough. So our coverage units all of a sudden don't play well, and we have good coverage units. We got fast guys that can cover. It's a fact. So our kicks needed to be better. Once our kicks got better, our coverage units got better. Okay. The one time that Presley ran 96 yards and ended up losing 2, he shouldn't have been running. He should have fair caught it. We were in a safe look. So, I'm not mad at him. I mean, he's burning a lot of energy. But the point being is he didn't need to do that. Then we almost busted 2 returns. Okay, we had 1 punt return we were close on, and a kick return we were 1 man away. So I'm encouraged by that because I've watched special teams now for about 10 years. I've really been involved, and I watch it. And it's interesting with special teams. You could be playing Stillwater High School, or you could be playing I don't care. Penn State, doesn't make a difference. Franklin's my buddy. I'll talk about him. And the matchups and the way that you block them and the rights and wrongs generally stay the same. Either you know what you're doing, you know how to leverage them, you can get a guy through, or you can't. So I was encouraged by the opportunities that we had out here Saturday that I think we can build on.
No, as well as the guys here know Tulsa, and after they lose to UC Davis on Thursday, and there were some weird things going on with that. They had suspensions dating back to last year, all that. No problem getting your team's attention.
Well, Tulsa's, I'm not in their building. I don't pretend to say I know what they're going through, but when you have as many suspensions as they do, it's going to greatly affect your team. Okay? You'd have to ask Coach, but I'm sure they don't just feel like they can run 2 groups out on both sides of the ball and feel comfortable with their experience and ability to compete at a high level. I don't have that luxury here. So when they lose as many players as they do, it's going to directly impact your team. Okay, and as we just talked about, the general fans and population and public, they don't like that, but they don't really know how much that affects your team, which is a bunch. Okay, and I'm guessing these guys are back now. And they got out there, and things just kind of didn't go good. And UC Davis played pretty good. Their quarterback's a good little operator. Made good plays, put the ball on. They had a good plan, and just kind of hung in there and ended up winning the game. Sometimes that can happen.
When preparing against them, how much do you look at that film from Thursday because they had so many guys out versus how much you maybe just look at last year's?
It's one game, so you look at it. That's all you have to base it on this year. But they're going to be who they are. He believes in his style of offense, and obviously they believe in their style of defense. That's what they do. So they know what we do, and we know what they do. But you're going to get personnel off that tape because that's the only tape we have from this year.
You've talked a lot about super seniors for yourself, but they have probably double the amount of super seniors. Is it different preparing for a team with that much?
Not preparation. I just think it's an advantage. Again, I use the advantage. I told you the other day, I gave you 4 guys that were thinking about returning to us. And if those guys would have returned to us, you certainly upgrade your talent level. So they've got a number of them, and it's an advantage when you have those guys, no question.
Mike, you had Tulsa last year. Spencer got hurt early, becomes down to the wire game, 16-7. Did you come away from that game knowing, hey, this is actually a pretty good team we played, and they ended up having an excellent season? Did you know that? And so, or do you have to learn about what the opposition does later in the season?
My honest opinion was, as I told the guys the next morning, I said, Tulsa's a good football team. I didn't know that they were that good based on they went on and had a good run. They came back, won a bunch of games, had Cincinnati beat. The next week or two, Cincinnati had Georgia beat, right? So, you can say what you want, but you got to be pretty decent to be in that position. That was on the road. In a rainstorm, I think, and then played an SEC team in the bowl game and could have won the bowl game. So they were when we finished playing them, we made some mistakes. Obviously, we had some things happen injury-wise and whatever. It is what it is. But I told the staff, in my opinion, they're a good football team. These guys are a good football team. And Coach Montgomery he doesn't get out of his box. He does a good job in the world that he lives in, and that's what they do, and in my opinion, they're good at it, and it allows them to get better as the season goes on. So they ended up being much more effective and better than what I thought, but I knew they were a good team. I just didn't – it would have been hard for me to say they were going to win. After they played us, would they win 8 games, something like that? I mean, I don't know if they –
6 in a row.
Right, so and they only played one more after that. 7, right? The bowl game. So if you would have said, okay, they're going to win 6 of their next 7, I don't know if I would have said I agree with that, but I said they're a good football team.
Going back to the run game struggles, do you feel like you have the guys for it? It's just a matter of like fixing things. It's not an
We'll be fine. Yeah, yeah. We need to get some things cleaned up. We had a couple things happen that were unusual. Like I'll give you an example. We're running a pull play where we block down, pull a guard, pull a tackle or a cowboy back, whoever it is, okay? Tackle on the front side. He's coming down inside to go block the backside guy. This defensive tackle tries to come across his face, so he holds him off so he can't collapse the hole as he's going to this guy. So he held him off, then he starts to go get his guy, and the puller that was behind him, he's got the block outside of that tackle. Well, he sees him hold him off, so he says, what? Somebody's got him. He goes to the next guy. Well, he turns him loose, and he tackles the guy. Everybody else is blocked. So the puller just doesn't have enough experience, and we haven't repped him enough to see that happen so he would know who to block. All he needed to do after he set him up was to get here and make that block, and then he was going that way. He might be out in Weatherford by now, still running, okay? So the point being is, it's little things like that. I'm just trying to give you an illustration of things that can be cleaned up just through reps. Now, is that the puller's fault? No, that's the coach's fault because we haven't given him that. We haven't showed him that. I went back. How many times have we showed him that? Not many. Okay, well, then that's what you get. Not many. So we need to do a better job of showing them the looks that they're going to get in the game. And then that way you have a better chance for success.
Coach Gundy, you talked about the O-line, but specifically with the Caleb Etienne, Taylor Maturko left tackle battle, after watching back, was there anything else you noticed in either of them specifically?
They played pretty good. Maturko graded out better than Caleb did, which I thought was going to happen. I had a pretty good feel for that because Caleb hadn't played in a game in, I don't know, a long time. He hadn't played football because they didn't play. So he's trying to figure it out, and he's trying to figure it out at a high level right now. So he played okay, and I expect him to get better. Maturko played good.
What would you ideally, where would you see Caleb as he developed through the season, say by that early October point when you say you can assess your team a little bit better?
Early October, somewhat better. That's too early for him. Because, see, what happens now is we only get 2 practice days a week because we got to play a game. It's not like spring where you can go out and just crunch him every day. So he's only going to get 6 more practice days until early October. So he's going to get a little better each week, but is it going to be early October for we just say you got it? And I mean, Maturko played pretty good, so I'm not ready to say that yet, but we're just trying to get him ready as fast as we can based on him learning everything and not playing in a year and a half.
You talked about how DVR at running back all year.
Mm-hmm.
Dominic Richardson didn't get a carry. Is that just kind of a game flow thing?
Well, the other guys are more experienced and have more reps. So if you have to categorize him, that's where he's at on the depth chart now. And if we would have run the ball better, he would have got a carry because we'd have been running more running plays. But we weren't running the ball good, so we were throwing more passes, so we didn't have as many to share. None of those guys got tired because we didn't get to run them enough because we didn't run the ball very well. That's just the way it was.
Mike, you had Brock Martin start on the end, and you said post-game you're not anticipating having Trace Ford back anytime soon. How do you feel about the depth at that position?
Well, it's not as good as it was when I was in August, but we've got guys there. 30 can get in there and play a little bit. 91 can play a little bit. Brock's going to be able to play a little bit. 52 gave us some snaps. 52, Kapinski, he was a good example of what happens when you get guys work all spring and in August. He got more practice in the spring than any guy ever at his position at where he was on the depth chart because we kept the COVID policy in place that we changed a year ago. We practiced everybody because we didn't know who was going to get to play. And for that reason, he was able to play out there and function some Saturday night If he wouldn't have got all the reps we gave him in the last 9 months, he would have really struggled. So that worked in our benefit.
Explain that a little bit more. You basically just had more or longer practices and split them up with guys?
Not longer. So we're out there.
By longer, I mean, guys went a certain, and then other guys came. Is that what
Yeah,
you
so
mean?
what we've always done is, and this is not very smart on my part, but it's one thing COVID taught me. Last year, Barry, when we got into August, nobody knew who was going to play, who's going to get the virus, who's not going to get the virus. So I said, guys, we're going to practice everybody the same amount of reps. Ones are going to get, in this drill, ones get 7 reps, twos get 7 reps. Now the threes/young guys, you're going to get 7 reps. Because if 16 guys get the virus, these guys over here, they're fixing to be second team or first team. So we did that all of 2020, and I liked it. Our time didn't change. We used to go ones, twos, ones, twos, ones, twos, ones, twos, threes got a little bit of work. Well, we went ones, twos, threes, ones, twos, threes, ones, twos, threes. So ones and twos didn't get any more wear and tear on their body. Threes just got some work. Now, when we went into the spring, I said we might as well keep doing that because we're not wearing down ones and twos. Threes might as well get the work. We just never did that. Not very smart on my part. So we did it again in August. So for that reason, I'm going to throw out a number. Kopinski might have had 250 somewhat live reps from spring and fall. Traditionally, at the depth where he was on the depth chart, he would have had about 30. Maybe 50. That's an exaggeration. Probably 50. So he's getting a ton more work.
Does that cut down on the reps for the ones and twos?
Nope, same number. All it does is we would finish earlier because, they can only go so much. Like, you can practice 3 hours or you can practice an hour and a half. But on a normal day, we do individuals, we do some 7-ons, we do a little inside, we do little one-on-ones, and then we get 42 plays a team. And the ones and twos get those numbers of that 42. So that 42 didn't change. All we did was over here, we added a number in for the threes that matched what the ones and twos got, and the ones and twos didn't get burned up. We just used that extra allotted 15 minutes or whatever to get those guys to work.
Coach, do you see that impacting how you use the 4-game redshirt rule in that maybe you sprinkle more guys in and use those 4 games?
It could be because it gives us some availability because I know these guys can play a little bit. Like, we wouldn't have known anything about Kopinski if he didn't get this work. And he started showing up in the spring. We're like, guy's playing pretty good. Guy's making some plays. He likes to tackle. He's not scared. Okay. We could use him if we need him. Well, sure enough, we needed him. So it worked out good. 71 was out there. I don't know how many reps he played. I should have known.
And
Hey,
what did you think of what Aiden did?
Well, yeah, I like calling him 71 because I tease him about farming. But the last time he was cutting wheat, and a high school kid, and he shows up and he played, I don't know how many plays he played. You're supposed to know that. But so he's cutting wheat in western Oklahoma and hog hunting, and all of a sudden he's in the game.
I'm going to bet he got close to 15.
Yeah. And so he would have not been anywhere near ready if he wouldn't have gotten that work in August. And so he got all that work, and so we could put him in there. We had some guys down and guys injured, and we had to put him in, and he actually went in, functioned, played pretty good, did okay. Now, it's going to get tougher on him, but still, he wouldn't have had that chance if we wouldn't have given him those reps. Probably couldn't even have gotten lined up. And he even turned his ankle in warm-ups. Langston Anderson is out for an extended period of time in warm-ups. Hurt his foot in warm-ups, and then Aiden Kelly turned his ankle in warm-ups. And we didn't think he was going to be able to play. They went in and retaped him, did whatever they do, got him fixed. He ended up playing a little bit. I asked him what happened. He said, Coach, I was so nervous. I just ran and just kind of turned my ankle over. I was so nervous in warm-ups. I said, it's awesome. And we had, we had another guy that was played the same position, Ian Marshall. He pulled his hamstring in warm-up. I don't know. I'm out of warm-ups.
Hale tears himself up in pregame last season.
I know. You almost don't want to warm up. I mean, warm-ups now are so slow. I don't know why we do it anyway. I mean, in the old days, you used to do the bull in the ring, and have that was good stuff. Now you don't do anything anyway. So, but I mean, they came to me and they said, well, Langston Anderson's could have a pretty significant foot injury. He's out. I'm like, I just saw him. What do you mean he's out? They said, well, he did it warming up. Okay. So he put 85 in. 85 was playing for Norman High School about 9 months ago. All right, son, you got it. Have at it and have fun.
Just his second season, too.
Huh?
Just his second season at Norman High.
Yeah, he thought he was a basketball player. He thought he was the next Kobe Bryant. So anyway, point being is, and then they told me about Aiden and about Ian, and I'm like, okay, sounds good. So
Kind of going along with that, without Spencer, who was your backup quarterback Saturday had you needed him?
that would have went 16 and 6 and 12 was what that would have been. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, was there like one guy that you had more ready than?
Yeah, 6 probably would have.
You went through a hell of a lot last year physically, early in the year, right? The O-line and Spencer getting her against you. Juba wasn't ever really fit. Sounds like you're in another rough patch.
A little bit. I mean, not like it was last year, because in the first game, the 2 kids broke their bones in their leg. That was a tough blow. We've got some guys beat up, but I don't feel like it's to that point, and we have a little more depth now. I mean, do I like it? No, I don't like it, but it's manageable right now as we start to get a few guys back. But we're in a situation where I don't know when they're going to come back yet. And that's kind of got me a little puzzled and a little concerned. And then with Langston and Trace, those guys, and then Colin and Langston and Trace, I said the other day, they're out for an extended period of time. So it is what it is. I mean, I hate it for the kids, hate it for everybody, but got to go play.
Coach, I don't know if you can answer this, but with Spencer in COVID protocol, can he get somewhere where he can throw the ball, where he can run around a little bit, stay in shape? I mean, how strict is the protocol? Is he in his room?
I need to ask what CDC guidelines are on that, on throwing a football while you're in protocol. I would guess. I mean, Spencer is somewhat. Spencer kind of hangs by himself. He's probably been somewhere. It was dove season, so he could have been dove hunting by himself, or he could have been flinging the ball around too. Somebody, for all I know, but. He's done it so much. I mean, he's fine. He'll be fine. He's done it since he's been this tall. So he'll be fine. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be back. I just can't say that because we have a very strenuous introduction back into our team from that. And sometimes they say he's not ready, and sometimes they say he's ready, and that's not me making that decision.
Does only having 2 practices make that more difficult?
Only having what?
Only having 2 practices before the
Oh, I mean, he's had so many practices. I mean, he should be fine. I mean, we run the same plays. We've run here forever, and he ought to be fine.
Mike, lots of reports about Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, UCF joining the Big 12. What do you think? What do you think of that alignment if we end up with another Big 12 in those 4 schools?
I don't have enough information to say other than I think there's something going on. But I have a meeting on Wednesday to kind of get brought up to par, and I'll know more. The only thing I can guess is based on what the other conferences have done, where they've come together to say we won't poach any other schools, which we all know that, to keep the league together, meaning our league through 24. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but that's what the Alliance is supposedly saying. And then the other conferences don't have a reason to do anything. Why? They all have their television money up through 24 or 26, and if this conference stays intact through 24, then this television money stays the same. If people leave, there's penalties to be paid, so why would anybody need to step out there and do anything? So then I'm just guessing that they're down here saying, okay, then we need to find, if this happens and we bring a certain number of teams in here, what's the financial television stability of this conference if these teams come in? They're trying to find out what the marketability is for it, would be my guess. So do I know what conversations that have taken place with any of those schools? No. Do I know how much interest there is in any of those schools? No. I just know some of the stuff you know. Maybe Wednesday they'll tell me a little more. But what I will say is this, is I like that our president is proactive and aggressive, and I like that the conference is trying to come up with different avenues and ways that they can go if something happens. That part I like. But I don't know a lot about it, so that's the best I can give you.
I was told that one thing important to you is stay with a strong Texas connection, no matter what. You got 3 still on board. If you had Houston, it's 4, which you've always had. Is that important to you?
I mean, I don't mind telling you that we recruit a lot down there, and I think that if we have schools in that state that are tied in with us, whatever we do, I think it's beneficial for this school. And I have always felt like one of the issues, again, it's my opinion, everybody can throw me under the bus, I don't care. I hadn't been thrown under the bus in a while, so. I thought when Nebraska went north, they lost recruiting down here, and I thought it hurt them. That's just my opinion. So I don't want to lose that base. Okay, we get the majority of our players from a 4-hour radius, and then you head south down through a little bit of West Texas, Metroplex, all the way out through Louisiana, East Texas, down to about Waco, really, and then push this way. We get a few Houston kids, but that part of the world's turning real SEC. So I don't want to lose that. That's why you're hearing that. That is true. I have said that. To people that asked if I had an opinion what I want the Texas people with us because I think it ties us into that television market, and I think that ties us into that recruiting base, which anybody that's in here knows that's pretty important. There's a lot of people that play football down there, and it gives us numbers to recruit to.
All 4 of those schools play pretty good football, yeah. I mean,
All 4 of what?
The expansion candidates.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 of them, and they're all 4 pretty good.
You know, the interesting thing is, and I know that I've got to get to my other deal, but, you know, just coast to coast, people see BYU as a Power 5 team. Like that logo, like you would too, right? Because you watched them forever. People think if you see that logo, they don't really know they're an independent. They think they're tied into a Power 5 conference, okay? Central Florida has 71,000 students. And they're in a heck of a television market, and they have a heck of a recruiting base, and they've played good football. Now, what other people may think of that, I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion on it. And then you have Cincinnati, who has a big television market. There's a lot of people live in that part of the country, and that logo has grown popularity in the last few years, and they're winning. Winning is important, and a somewhat extended period of winning is important, I would think, to these television rights people. And then you have Houston that's got a huge market and has had success. And they're tied into a place in the country that's huge with high school football. State of Texas high school football, everybody talks about it. So there's good candidates out there. I don't make the decision based on the television money, somebody else does, but there's good candidates.
Is there some humor if Houston comes back, the fact that Dana just can't escape the Big 12?
Well, I hadn't thought about that, but we can call it like it is. I really feel like that Oklahoma State's going to be just fine, whatever direction this goes. Nobody knows what direction it's going. And then if they get to a point where they're going to bring teams into this conference to strengthen it and it's financially secure for the teams in this league, and then the teams that come in, because they have to get their cut of the pie, right? That's what we're talking about here. Then that decision will be made. And I'm not really concerned about that. But if there's ever Texas teams in our conference, I don't see how that would hurt Oklahoma State. Somebody might be able to tell me how, but I don't see how it would hurt Oklahoma State.
Coach, you're coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and I know you were the offensive coordinator at OSU during the Texas A&M game, when they had the red, white, and blue shirts that they sold and filled out the stadium. Can you kind of share your experience with that game?
Well, that time, was kind of odd for all of us. That was the first time in really kind of, you're real young, but kind of my generation that we had what would be a real terrorist attack, because we hadn't had a real war in a long time. And so it was a different time for all of us. And I know for me specifically, it was kind of the first time in my life, which I was probably, I don't know how old I was then, young. And it kind of swallowed, like, I can't believe that can really happen. It was scary, and since then now we've seen a lot of things happen. We've grown accustomed to not liking it, but almost just saying things happen. But it was the first time in my life where I was like, I can't believe that actually happened, and then didn't really know what to think.